Today is the 23rd of January. Exactly 5 years ago on this day, on January 23rd, 2020, the world saw its first Wuhan virus lockdown. It was the Chinese city of Wuhan itself. It became the first city in the world to shut down because of a never-seen-before virus, which eventually crippled the entire world. It's been 5 years since. We still don't know exactly how it came about. China won't share data and it blocks access. But the US House of Representatives recently reached a conclusion. They believe the pandemic was the result of a lab leak. This was not universally accepted, though. The conclusion was made by members of the Republican Party and it was challenged by the Democrats. That doesn't really matter at the moment, though, because it's the Republicans who are in charge of the US House, the Senate, and of course the presidency. Donald Trump is the US president again, and he has a plan to try and prevent another lab leak from ever taking place. It is quite simple, really. Trump will just shut down the labs. Reports say that he is working on a new executive order, one that will stop funding to labs that enhance viruses, labs that make viruses more potent. They won't get the money to keep running if Trump has his way. If you look at it from his point of view, it does make sense. Trump's Republican Party says that the Wuhan virus was an experiment gone wrong. An existing virus was enhanced, but then it escaped from a lab in Wuhan. From this lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It was being funded by the Americans. And the Republicans are furious about that. In fact, they did not stop funding even after the pandemic erupted. The money from America to the Wuhan lab kept flowing until 2023, before the tap was finally shut. Now, Donald Trump and his team do not want a repeat of that. So they would rather shut off the funding altogether. Is this really a good idea, though? Let's put aside the potential misuse for a minute. Let's first talk about why viruses are enhanced in the first place. And this does happen all the time. Scientists regularly make viruses more potent inside labs. This is done to study their effects and to develop countermeasures. Because viruses in the wild mutate all the time, they become drug resistant on their own, or they start inflicting new symptoms. This happens naturally over a period of time. So we have to find new remedies to deal with new diseases. But when scientists enhance viruses inside a lab, it gives them a head start. It allows them to study new strains so that they can counter them when such new viruses take hold in the real world. That's the theory anyway. And that is why the funding ban is being slammed. Critics say the virus research must continue, else it will handicap American medicine. It will allow other countries to race ahead. And they do have a point. Just because the US stops funding this does not mean that other countries will. And yes, there are risks. Yes, a country could use this research to develop a bioweapon. That could very much happen. And it could happen even without American money. So at the end of the day, it's a risk versus reward situation. The reward is more scientific knowledge, better preparedness for a future pandemic, and the ability to develop cures faster. The risk is a potential lab leak and perhaps the beginning of another pandemic. It is a tough call. It seems that Trump has decided to steer clear of the danger, but can he convince other countries to do the same?
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.